no matter who they are, where they from, if they unintelligent and ignorant, then y'all never gonna be able to come together and concisely find a solution to a problem that they don't truly know exists out of their own ignorance, you know? And I think that's more so the problem that we deal with in America.
So, like, even going back to that KKK dude, like, he, what was he saying again? He just pretty much said, I don't believe in mixing, but, like, what's your outlook on that whole
You know, when you look at, I think right now there's a scientific record in this country about white people dying off, you know, mostly because of the genetic gene pool is not as strong to continuously reproduce and to maintain their majority rule in America. So I think when you hear statements, you're hearing it from a point of fear. He has a fear that within the next 30, 40, 50 years, that white people would definitely be the minority. And if people continue to mix within the races, then there won't be a white people. You know, there would just be a mixed people, you know, down the line. And I think that that fear is very real for a lot of white people, you know, and I think that's what a lot of the hate groups and things of that nature spear their rhetoric from, you know, is this mixture of the races, and then there's no more white people because, you know, they can't produce black. Only black can produce white, you know, so I think that's really where it really comes from. And they know their history better than people give them credit for. And, you know, somebody like a Ku Klux Klan member, as ignorant and as dumb as they are and may seem, I think a lot of their intelligence comes from the ability that they have to unite with each other and like-minded people and live separately to where they have no conflict amongst each other. I think that what we have a lot of times in America, you have almost too much diversity in a fact of where if you don't understand your neighbor, then you can't accept your neighbor and y'all can't get along effectively. Diversity is good when the people around you understand your culture, understand your nature, your origins, your genesis, so therefore you all can be able to accept and understand each other and y'all can live together. But if you got some crazy, you know, redneck in the South that doesn't like black people and, you know, dislike and hate me for my skin color, then by all means, he definitely should be separate. He should be very far from me because there's no way that we'll be able to coexist or get along because his ignorance is at a primate level, you know, and my intelligence is at a God level, you know, and primates and gods don't live together.
Hell yeah. Like, it's interesting, you know, like, just what I'm taking from what you're talking about is, like, people are definitely afraid of change, and that's, like, human nature to, like, fear something you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just kind of like human nature. Something you don't know, like, you fear it because you don't know if it's dangerous. So, I don't really know my question, but, like, as far as, like, the nature of fear, of, like, what do you think is the... How do you overcome that natural fear that some people may have? Because some people aren't exposed to certain things. So, you know what I'm saying? So what's the solution for all these people with fears?
I think fear is very bad. For one, I think that here's one thing. I know a lot of people have come to me and asked me, a lot of black mothers and people who have black brothers and things of that nature and husbands, and they ask me, what can I do as my part to help protect my son or my husband or brother or friends or whatever in this situation? And I'm gonna say, for one, stop spreading fear. You know, when you spread the fear, you're putting them in a position the same as a human who has a fear of a dog, and that dog smells that pheromone, and that dog becomes fearful and it attacks that human. But if that human was confident, then he could have actually had access to that dog to where they was able to coexist and get along. You know, I think that you have to teach your children and you have to become more knowledgeable about your own history, and you have to let them know realistically what their place is in society and how society views them. So when they understand the society around them, they become confident in knowing how other people see them. They know what their enemy looks like, and they know what they look like towards their enemy. So you don't fear a snake when you know the nature of a snake. You just don't put your hand down there so that you can be bitten. You know, so it's understanding the nature, and that overrules the fear aspect of it. You know, I think that we are a very inconfident people when it comes to dealing with different evils in the world. But I do want to offer another piece of knowledge, because I think that black people can learn a lot from this LGBT community as far as how they come together. And what they did was they took this idea of homophobia and this idea of people being homophobic towards them, and they use that to cultivate support within the world. So they integrated themselves within infrastructures of power. So anytime someone does something against them, they can protest and boycott economically, and also using their power to get that person removed from their position, apologize, or boycotted from their support. And so what they did is they took this concept of what they say people have is a homophobic fear of them because of who they are and people not understanding them. So what they did is they turned that fear around from people to say that just because you don't understand us doesn't give you a platform to be against us. So now they took this idea of fear and use it against people. So now people have fear of homosexuals, not for the reasons that they said it was at first. You know, now their fear of retaliation. You know, I was having a conversation with someone and we were talking about Black Lives Matter and the black dollar and things of that nature. And somehow the subject got on the LGBT community. But when he started speaking, he lowered his tone. And I'm like, why did you lower your tone? And we've been talking about all these different racially charged things and different, you know, high, tense political subjects. But the only time I heard him lower his tone is when we were talking about homosexuals. And he was like, man, they got power. And I'm like, wow, that's fear. So they use fear as a tactic to control people and to get them on their side. Because you have to remember when Obama or the Supreme Court, you know, legalized gay marriage, a lot of people weren't in support of them before that. I didn't see half of the people on my timeline ever raise support for them. But when that happened, it trended this idea, and then people jumped on the bandwagon. That was their power, you know. So I don't think they won the hearts and minds of people through love. I just don't think that's a real thing. I think that that was a slogan that Facebook made up, and when Facebook made it up, everybody used it. But I think that their most powerful weapon has always been fear, you know, and also organization, because organizations fear organization. But I say that to say this, that if black people model the things that actually work, you know, then we can actually have power, because they use the boycott, you know, they use their positions of power within companies and within the government, and they use all the resources against them, and they band together for this one idea to work together to make sure that we get a solution, and they actually get change. So the same way that black people in their jobs and places are fearful to say Black Lives Matter, you know, that's everybody else using fear against them, you know, but it should be the opposite, you know. We should be able to take our power and have people afraid to be against this idea that our lives do matter, you know, and never let nobody downsize your pride of being black, you know. Never let nobody downsize your pride of being African, or some people African American, you know. So I think that for one, we have to squash fear in our hearts and let our confidence make our enemies fearful. And then therefore we will have power.
Yeah.